What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So next week, Nintendo will have a massive game release with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and wouldn't you know it, the game is leaked out a bit early, which tells me things are about to get out of control pretty quickly. We'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sonic Frontiers as reviews went live yesterday, and they're all over the place. And we'll also be talking about a pretty big Black Friday sale that is live right now, and it actually includes games that just came out. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with AEW Fight Forever, a new wrestling game, of course, coming up. And we've seen gameplay for it and heard that it's going to be closer to something like No Mercy from back on the Nintendo 64. And that was exciting to a lot of diehard video game wrestling fans, obviously. But we've been wondering when this game's coming out. Probably not making this year since it's November right now. Looking towards maybe the first half of 2023, and the possibility that it could be going into Xbox Game Pass day one. We can see this posted up by WrestleZone, saying there is good news for the game on the horizon, however, as multiple sources have informed them that when AEW Fight Forever is released, it will be part of the Xbox Game Pass on day one. This will give All Elite Wrestling's first video game a massive boost in accessibility right out of the gate. This, of course, being published by THQ Nordic. And this wouldn't surprise me necessarily. WWE has a storied history when it comes to their game releases, whereas this is the first game for AEW and might be a good way just to get the game in front of people. And obviously THQ Nordic would be negotiating some sort of payment from Microsoft to make all that happen. But the idea of putting it into the service and just getting people to try the game out might be worthwhile as well for AEW Fight Forever. So I wouldn't be shocked to see this, and I guess we'll wait to find out more. Also, we do know that Final Fantasy 16 is slated to release, they said summer 2023. Still waiting for an exact release date on that one, but we are seeing some promotional videos get out there from Sony, and one in particular had some fine print at the bottom that maybe gives us an indication as to when it's going to PC. We can see this posted up by PlayStation on Twitter, and at about the 15-second mark on this promotional video, it says Final Fantasy 16 anticipated summer 2023, PS5 exclusive for 6 months. Some people were reading that as, oh, it's going to go to the Xbox after 6 months. No, I think it's going to be PlayStation 5 for most of 2023, or maybe all of it, depending on when it comes out in the summertime. And then into 2024, it'll find its way to PC. And I mean, maybe to annoy some PC gamers, maybe it's an Epic Games Store exclusive or something like that. But that's kind of how I'm looking at this, because they had mentioned a PC release for Final Fantasy 16, I think in the first trailer, and then they just stopped talking about the PC after that. So Sony most likely was like, we're not going to tell anyone it's going to PC, but 6 months after it comes out for the PS5, then you can release it there. We'll put a little disclaimer on some of our promotional videos to say that. So there you have it. I think we're going to see PlayStation 5 when it releases summer 2023, and then maybe first half of 2024, it'll drop on PC. Oh, and we did get news for another video game adaptation to film or just like animated series. We can see this over on Twitter from Netflix. They say Gears of War was released 16 years ago today, and to mark the occasion, Netflix has partnered with the Coalition to adapt the Gears of War video game saga into a live-action feature film, followed by an adult animated series with the potential for more stories to follow. I think this is a great idea. Gears of War should lean into this pretty well. I think a live-action feature film should be fine, but I am really interested in the adult animated series because of what we just saw with Cyberpunk Edge Runners. That was an awesome series. So this, with the Coalition being involved, I assume it'll be very faithful to the overall lore of the game itself, and could work to obviously propel things when Coalition's ready to show another Gears of War game. So yes, very interested in this one. Don't know if we're going to see anything tangible around this anytime soon, but and cross our fingers to hopefully see a trailer maybe towards the end of next year. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as it has now leaked online. But first, let's take a look here, this over on Twitter. from the Pokemon account saying, calling all trainers, a new Pokemon Scarlet Violet trailer arrives tomorrow. Tune in to our YouTube channel at 6 a.m. Pacific, or that being 9 a.m. Eastern Time, on November 8th for the latest news. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, all of this. And there were some that were already sort of poking at Nintendo and the Pokemon company, like CentroLeaks, who says, assuming the entire game doesn't leak before that. And this is in reference to the game appearing to either break street date or finding its way out of a warehouse. I saw Austin John Plays posted a video pretty quickly after things started to appear online, just to let everyone know that this was happening. He, of course, has been following along, as you expect, with a lot of the Pokemon news, so definitely a good source to check out if you want to keep up to date on things without being completely spoiled in a thumbnail or anything there. But this is typical. Seems to happen for every Switch game, really. I mean, since Nintendo released the system and people realized that a paperclip could modify the entire platform. Now, we haven't had it dumped on the internet yet. All right, that we're still kind of waiting to hear about that, because when that happens, it won't just be coming from one or two sources. It'll be coming from everywhere. And the idea of data mining completely opens up. And that's where people will go through the game files, start to pull everything out of it, and you won't have to play through the game to see maybe legendaries there that are at the end of it. You just kind of scroll through, look through the files, and okay, there is the big legendary at the end of the game, or even the different evolutions of the starters, which was completely posted up on Twitter. I was scrolling through, somebody retweeted it, and there's the second form, I believe, of Fuecoco, which is why they were trending on Twitter, because we started to have that just kind of dropped and spoiled online. And that's the funny thing. Some people are wondering what exactly is going to get spoiled about a Pokemon game, like the story? Well, I mean, maybe. This is, remember, an open world style Pokemon game, first of its kind, and seems like there's a lot of new mechanics and ideas involved here that, yeah, could be spoiled, but also all the different Pokemon in the game and different forms. They're going to be talking more about this game today, and I assume they'll probably show off some sort of new Pokemon or concept or area. There is a lot that's still kind of unknown for this title, despite it being such a large franchise, and it's a good way to continue building up hype and momentum heading into its release, well, next week. And I will say this, if you are someone who covers different things on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, I would not post up any of these leaks. Anything, screenshots, video, nothing, because I will tell you now, the Pokemon Company and Nintendo, they don't mess around. They will start striking screenshots, videos, the whole thing. They will find you. I've always said there are two companies you don't mess with when it comes to leaks. That's Take-Two and the Pokemon Company. And I think this will just continue to snowball as we head towards its release next week. So I guess do your best to try to avoid any spoilers, although it'll probably be pretty difficult, because what we saw with Sword and Shield was that just exploded online and it was all over the place. Although I have mentioned before that this would be the best-selling Pokemon game, and maybe we do need a good boycott or a controversy, something to pop up, and that typically happens when data mining occurs and people look more and more into the game. At least that's happened with Sword and Shield, and then that went on to become the second best-selling Pokemon game in the franchise. So here's hoping for some controversy, some change.org petitions and stuff, so I can be right and this ends up outselling even Pokemon Red and Blue. Next up, let's talk about Sonic Frontiers, as the review embargo did lift yesterday. I will be checking this game out later on today for some of my immediate impressions on it. We'll just fire it up for the first time, play through it a bit, and I'll talk about what I'm seeing exactly and what I think about it. I will get it on the Switch as well as the PS5 though, because there's a lot of curiosity around how the Switch version performs, and the fact that Sega only sent out PlayStation 5 keys for review, well, it's not exactly pushing a lot of confidence around the release, but I guess we'll find out. Anyway, let's take a look here over on Metacritic, currently sitting at a score of 73, ladies and gentlemen. That is higher than Sonic Forces by, I believe, 16 points. So they're on their way, and they're on their way up at least, all right? So there's some improvement there. It's not competing necessarily with something like, what, Sonic Generations. I think that was closer to higher 70s. So not necessarily the highest rated 3D Sonic game, but better than Forces. That's what we were going for here. Anyway, we look at the split, 31 positive, 16 mixed, and 3 negative. I wasn't kidding when I said this is all over the place. We have ranges of 9s, 8s, all the way down to, I think, a 2. Yeah, so Digital Trends gave it a 20 out of 100. They say, while not outright broken like Sonic the Hedgehog from 2006 or Sonic Boom, Sonic Frontiers is a heavily misguided game that muffles good ideas with questionable narrative, technical, and gameplay design decisions, contrasting heavily to what, for example, Shack News says. Sonic Frontiers is nothing short of a marvel in how it blends together beloved elements from previous games with exciting new twists and turns to create something wholly unique. If we need something middle of the road, we could probably just turn to IGN, and yep, there it is, IGN. 7 out of 10. Looking through a lot of these reviews, there are many that seem optimistic about the future of Sonic if they stick to this formula and build on top of it. It's really more about the here and now with this game and the lack of polish, especially when it comes to pop-in, which we saw it in the previews. Like the gameplay video that was being shown, we kind of looked at it and said, well, maybe that's the early build of the game and it'll be fixed. No, unfortunately it wasn't, and it is comically bad, and apparently it affects the gameplay itself, which once again, I'll find out when I play it, but when you're going through certain platforming challenges, some of the platforms legitimately don't appear until you just basically jump forward and hope that it's there. Other times you're kind of looking around for something and you just have to walk or run in its general vicinity, and then it'll pop up 10 feet in front of you to go accomplish some sort of task you've been given. But with the technical limitations out of the way, for the most part, people seem to enjoy some of the larger boss battles, and the world design is a bit odd, but it's not necessarily open world as it was originally described. It's kind of zoned off, and Sega was attempting to explain exactly what it was with this like open zone concept, but it's something, once again, that we'll probably have to experience for ourselves, and I guess we'll do that later on today. And I'll spend the rest of the week playing as much as I can next to God of War so I can give a better idea as to what I think about the game on the podcast Saturday night. Next up, let's talk about a Nintendo Direct that was announced for this week, that being an Indie Games Showcase. We can see this posted up over on Twitter from Nintendo of America. Tune in on November 9th at 9 a.m. Pacific for a new Indie World Showcase featuring roughly 25 minutes of information on upcoming indie games headed to Nintendo Switch. 25 minutes? That's a pretty good amount of time for an indie showcase. Obviously, a lot of people, you see in the replies, are asking about Hollow Knight Silksong. The thing with this, it's very difficult to predict what will be at an indie showcase because there's always so many different studios that might be making a game for the first time or just have an incredibly unique idea for a new intellectual property that no one would have considered. In this instance, though, if there's one game I would hope to see here, it's Sports Story. In fact, you might as well just shadow drop that right away, Nintendo. Like, during the presentation, I really like Golf Story. I like what they've been talking about with Sports Story, obviously expanding out to different sports and bringing them into this RPG-like environment. So that would be my one hope is, I mean, they've been developing it for a while now, so maybe they blow us away with a presentation. It's the last thing they show, and yeah, it's available today. Hollow Knight Silksong, I think that's mostly going to be saved for an overall Nintendo Direct, just a general Direct, not something for an indie showcase. Silksong has kind of gotten to that point where it's, I don't know, transcended the Indie World Showcase necessarily, but I'm looking forward to this. I think we could see some pretty creative ideas and games, and like I said, some shadow drops, so make sure you check it out tomorrow. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a Black Friday or holiday sale that is live right now, and I've noticed that a lot of these retailers are trying to do their Black Friday sales even earlier this year. I mean, it's every year almost, it seems like they were trying to get earlier and earlier with it to where they were opening stores on Thanksgiving. Oh, just come on in after dinner and you can start picking some stuff up for like 40% off. But now some of these deals are already live. But one in particular I saw and I was a little surprised because some of the games just came out. This is at Target. It's a buy two, get the third free sale. And I believe from what they've shown, it's gonna be going on for the rest of this week up until the 12th. And you could pretty much do some holiday shopping here and get some good discounts. Like, for example, I wrote some games down starting with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's included, which again, that just came out and it's a game that's selling really, really well. So you figured they might not put it on the buy two, get third free, but there it is. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Skywalker Saga, Gran Turismo 7, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Gotham Knights, which Yeah, that could be your free game. You can tell everyone, you know what, I didn't even pay any money for this. I just got it for free when I went to Target. Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection, which is another good one. Obviously, the compilation games, a lot of value there. But what you want to do is you want to make sure you get the most value out of these deals by pairing the expensive games together. Like, for example, if you get two $70 games, make sure that free one is also a $70 game, or if you get two $40 games, obviously in the 40. So just pair them together as you need to. Don't let Target, the system itself, like when you're checking out, do that for you. If you have to, do separate transactions for each just to make sure they make the correct game free. But certainly a good deal to take advantage of now, especially if you have some holiday shopping to do and it was going to be a bunch of video games, since you can get one for free. Definitely better than what we had with Nintendo as like the most recent gaming sale to be announced, where it was just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for like the 4th or 5th year or something. So make sure you check it out over on Target. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're gonna see, what year do you think Nintendo will release their next generation system that will follow up on the Switch? Well, look at 2024. 49%. So, okay, a 7-year cycle, essentially, because I think Nintendo will stick with that March release schedule going forward. They've already proven that it works. No need to release something over the holiday season for a brand new generation. But I think a 7-year cycle there for the Switch would be good, because it'll most likely still go for another year or so, especially if there's backwards compatibility, as we would all expect. You get 8-9 years out of the Switch, I think that's a win. And yeah, it still might approach that PS2 number of 150 or so million if Nintendo keeps pushing them out the door. But I guess we'll see. Looking at 2024, though, for me would be the most likely scenario, but you never know. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Gat, saying Nintendo generally releases in twos, a new machine with a new concept, and then a new machine that's a refinement of the last. So there's a good chance that the next will be the Switch in basic concept. I'd like to believe that, but Nintendo tends to Nintendo, so a lot of times we expect them to do something and they just do something completely different. In this case, I was thinking back to the Game Boy Advance to the DS, where there was a 3-year cycle. It was very short, by the way, and they presented the DS. Some of that could have been because of pressure from Sony with the PSP, but they presented the DS as a third pillar. It played Game Boy Advance games, but they were gonna kind of keep both systems next to each other and selling. Obviously it didn't work out. They continued on with the DS and the Game Boy Advance slowly faded away. Would they ever go back to having two systems? The Switch and something else? Like, they had a push for cell phones, didn't work out. They seem to be kind of separating themselves once again from the phone game sector, and maybe they focus on some other new hardware and the Switch is its own pillar and then they have something else. Just some food for thought when it comes to Nintendo, because, well, they liked Nintendo. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet breaking street date, getting out there into the wild. How much longer until you think this thing completely leaks online? And do you think we'll have another controversy? Maybe they find another one of those N64 trees. And then Sonic Frontiers coming in at a 73 on Metacritic. Are you picking it up? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.